Hey, Doug Upstone here for Doc Sports, and we're going to do something a little bit different for this video. I'm not going to give you any free picks, nothing like that. Nothing about any promotions coming or anything of that nature. Nope, we're just going to talk about something that should be very dear and near to your heart. Tips for betting the NCAA college basketball tournaments. That's right. There's a number of things that go on. This is the time of year. It's March Madness. And what does March Madness mean? Well, it means things are crazier than ever. For example, from now until March 14th, when the bids come out, there'll be conference play every single day. And the madness this time of year, it's not only just what goes on in the games. There's upsets and stuff like that, but a lot of that is just to do with seedings or rankings and stuff like that. Now, when you add in the point spread, that changes a whole other thing that adds another level of real madness, trying to pick winners and come out ahead and beat the sports books or whatever you use to place your bets. To possibly quell the insanity, here's some tips for you that you could use if you like, if they make sense to you, to help you for your basketball picks. Some of them are universal and some are very specific, and we're going to go right to those to start with. So, starting with number one, don't rush to judgment in the opening rounds of all tournaments. Obviously, this fits the bill for very specific information. The first games of virtually every conference tournament has to do with the standings. And so those games typically are always the bottom feeders of any given conference. So when you go, when you look at that, you're not going to get a lot of great matchups. Go back to the very first conference tournament games, which was February 25th out of the horizon. There was 4 games that night. All but one team had a losing record. Okay, both in league play and in their conference too. So if these were regular season games, you'd probably ignore them. I know I would, for the most part. I mean, unless I really saw something there. So in these early games, okay, I know you're not going to ignore them completely. I don't either. I go through the process at least of looking at them, but I want to have something that's really useful, okay, and when I'm looking to do this. For example, looking for a double revenge situation possibly, okay, particularly if I have an underdog. And with my underdog, I'm looking to hopefully have at least one advantage either on offense or defense. Or I could also be looking for another situation where a team lost by more than 12 or more points. So let's say it was a larger score. So if the spread was 5 or something like that. Or another example would be a double-digit spread loss. So whatever the spread was, make it double digits. It adds motivation, especially if that has happened within the last 2 weeks for those teams that when they last played. I think that adds a little something there. Otherwise, backing a team that is not playing well versus a team that is playing well. Yes, they could both have losing records, but one could be trending upward and one could be trending downward. I think that the best course of action is to go beyond the first round and look for better matchups, okay? And you're going to have, say, better spreads and everything else that goes along with. And as the tournament evolves, you get a little bit more information. I'm not saying don't play all the first round games. I'm just saying be very cautious. Be choosy, okay? Don't rush to judgment just because there's a lot of games. Okay, thing number 2, read the box scores of games like your grandpa did from baseball years ago. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to assume that anybody that's watching this video, they either had a grandfather, maybe their own father, used to get the paper and read the box scores pretty much every single day from baseball. Okay, well that's important this time of year for March Madness and following the conference tournaments. And the reason that I say that, let me give you some examples here. Let's say Tennessee. Now this is all hypothetical. Okay, Tennessee's a 5-point favorite. They win by 2 against Mississippi. They move on. The Vols then are favored over, say, Auburn by -2 points in their next game. Okay, so that's the setup. Now, many people would probably jump at the chance to take Auburn as a 2-point underdog in that situation. But if you go and look at the box score, okay, and you find out, for example, that Tennessee shot 36%, terrible percentage. They were 3 for 18 from beyond the arc. Okay, also terrible. And they only made half their free throws. So in other words, they had a horrible shooting game, yet they still won somehow. All right. So if there's no injuries involved, okay, they just had a brutal shooting game, yet live to tell about it. Now in their next game, chances are they're going to get back to normal. They might even do a little better than normal in this case. And if that is the case, they have an excellent chance to win. But you wouldn't know that unless you looked at the box scores. Okay. Now another situation would be the exact opposite of that. In this case, we're taking a 3-point underdog that wins by 15 points. But then you look at the box score, you see that team shot 60% from the field. They shot 50% of their threes, which were well above their norm. Okay. With that in mind, they might be play against material. So look at the box scores of the games to get yourself more information besides just the standard way that you do it in order to help yourself find more winners during conference tournament time. All right, next up, now this is a little bit more normal information, but it's still important. Defense matters, and so does motivation. Now, when a team gets fired up, what usually sets them off? Okay, what do they do best? Typically, they play defense. Sure, you're going to have the hot shooting games, okay, but there's no way to forecast that. But if a team is the better defensive team to start with, and they have the ability to, shut down the opposing team who maybe goes up and down, that's all part of the game. That's what happens in basketball. So the one thing, the old cliche, defense travels, well, it certainly does, because offense can be a very fickle friend. So look for teams that have a defensive advantage on field goal percentage defense and defensive efficiency. Both of those things are readily available. Almost universally, you can go to any website and find that. If you're looking for defensive efficiency ratings or other things related to, for example, KenPom, you can go to Team Rankings is another great source. But look for those types of things because that can really be a big help. In addition, the other thing that what we look for is motivation. And in this case, if you're looking at, say, one of the teams, pretty much the top 3 teams in any conference tournament, and if any of those teams are virtual locks for the first, let's just say, 4 seeds, the ones that my pal Joe Lenardi talks about all the time, if they're a virtual lock, and if they are playing a team that's an underdog of 8 or more points, okay, and they're trying to get to the big dance, well, that can be a lot of extra motivation as an underdog. And that can be a real plus for you and for me to get some more winners, point spread winners in this game. They might not win the game, but they can make the game tighter because they have more motivation to win, especially maybe in a quarterfinal or even a semifinal game. So look for those situations. Next up, stellar guard play. Okay, we've all heard this be the case, but it's true. Okay, you take a team, for example, that has a dynamic point guard, a sharpshooter from distance, and a wing player who can shoot or drive to the basket. That's a trio of guards, my friends, that can really get the job done. That is a dangerous basketball team. And in conference tournament play, if those 3 guys get hot at the same time, they are going to forget their records. They're going to be tough to beat. And if you throw in, if they happen to have, now this is a best case scenario now, if they happen to have a big man who can block some shots and guard the paint, whew, that's a good group. Okay, so watch for really good guard play and to where there's an advantageous position where you can take advantage of it. The last thing, and this is the thing nobody wants to talk about, is money management. Okay, why? Because money management's boring. Okay, everybody wants to hit the home run. Everything else about that, but here's the thing, with conference tournament play, for the most part, they're all at neutral courts. There's a few exceptions each year, including this one, but essentially they're at neutral sites. So that means going to have tighter spreads. The outcomes of those games typically then are closer, and the spreads reflect that as well. If you're inexperienced or newer to this, placing bets during this time of year, I would suggest flat betting. Flat betting is betting the same amount on every single game, because what that allows you to do is it reduces your risk. Okay, you got to have the percentage in order to win. You need 52.8% in order to win. So with that being the case, what you want then, it takes some of the thrill, or not thrill, takes some of the edge off of what you're trying to do. Okay, and then you're not having situations where, for example, you bet one game and it's a 5-unit play, and then you have one that's a 6-unit play. Okay, and you win the 3, you lose the 6, and so you end up short. Okay, on that from what you win or lose. So flat betting can be really good if you're less experienced. If you're really sure, and I'm saying you, okay, like myself, if you're really sure about a certain game, okay, or games, then you can, go higher. Just don't go crazy, okay? Keep it in line. Don't, for example, if you normally bet $100 a game, don't start betting $500 a game, okay? That's how you blow through your money real quick. So use money management in order to help yourself be in the most advantageous position to win for conference tournament betting. So there's 5 tips for you, okay? Follow those things, and I'm all but certain you will help yourself have a better conference tournament season between now and March 14th, and also get you ready for the big dance soon to come. So this is Doug Upstone for Doc Sports. Until next time, I'm out.